country. Whoops, hold on here. Okay. Most families across the country experiencing losses, uncertainty, wondering if you can trust your neighbors. So my idealism from all of this experience is kind of taken a hit. I've been doing a whole lot of thinking about that lately. So the picture you have in front of you is my 4 youngest sisters. And I have 3 older sisters and also 2 brothers. But I miss them dearly. And my sister Annie, the closest one to you, in the dark sunglasses and blonde hair, had COVID actually this past summer. And my sister Mary Frances, the woman in the dark blue shirt and the blue headband, actually lost her husband with COVID this winter as well. So like everyone, we've been through quite a year. And then, of course, we've had our democracy freak out, right? I don't know about you, but my recovery from all of this is still in process. And my recovery hasn't been what I hoped it would be as well. The good news is that over the pandemic, I've had lots of time, maybe too much time to think, to ponder, to, as Stacey Abrams says, to imagine the world as you want it to be. I've been thinking about the UU faith, or tenet of faith in action, and looking at how I realize my own faith. I've been unpacking and examining my attitude. I realize that what I'm seeking with my activism, what I've been seeking from my activism, has been a sense of soulcraft. I borrowed this term from Mayor Pete. Pete says that soulcraft today, more than ever, politics matters because leaders call out either what is best in us or what is worst in us. It can draw us either to our better or to our worst selves. Politics at its worst is ugly, but at its best, politics can lift us up. It is not just policy making, it is soulcraft, and it is moral. Mayor Pete's definition of politics is public service. And I think that soulcraft is a really great frame, or is useful for us in terms of our own activism. The definitions of soulcraft is that it's a quest for understanding. And my favorite, a quest for understanding connectedness. Soulcraft is an activity that nourishes the soul, particularly work or other activity. It pretty much says it there. It's also something that shapes or modifies one's soul or core being. Soulcraft is something that shapes and modifies one's soul or core being. I repeat that because activism often focuses on other people. Soulcraft focuses on all individuals in activism. And I'm really particularly interested in marrying activism, my own activism, with a sense of soulcraft. And this is what I want to talk to you about today. Growing up, my story is not much different from yours. My notion of faith was framed around something that I had to earn, not something within me. Faith was religiosity. Faith was the otherworldly, gauzy, floaty, above it all specialty of priests, nuns, gurus, and yogis. And frankly, that certainly never has been me. Parker Palmer referred to this type of religiosity and spirituality as above the oatmeal. He's fond of oatmeal. My first real spiritual experience, however, has stayed with me. As a grade schooler, I climbed up on the roof of our California ranch house to stare up at the sky for hours. It was absolutely transporting. I was only like 8 or 10 years old. I mean, I was young and I got up there. That was part of it. I became very familiar with the various blues of the California sky, and it was transporting and is still transporting to me today. Later, I understood the connectedness of everything and became a Unitarian. This is one of the late sculptor Rhodes. His name is, I keep forgetting the first name, frankly, George Rhodes, who passed away recently at 92. This is one of his sculptures that is all about how everything is connected to everything else. This is one where the ball trips something that trips something else, that then trips something else. His sculptures are a favorite of children and adults everywhere. I do tend to nerd out on everything is connected to everything else. This is a slide of a cell. Of course, it's colorized, but isn't that spectacular? To me, it's a piece of art as well as science. And every little dot in there, every little shape, every little thing in that has a universe inside of it. So talk about everything is connected to everything else. And of course, as you all know, something that goes wrong inside a cell has some significant consequences for you. Remember this? This is Apollo 8. This is the first time we saw Earth in space. This was a transporting moment for me, and I think it was a transporting moment for everyone on our little blue planet. It has changed our experience as people forever, as people on a planet forever. I learned to particularly appreciate spirituality as found in nature. This is my college campus, would you believe? It was beautiful coastline college in a redwood forest overlooking the ocean. And every day I was grateful to be there. The UUA defines Unitarian Universalism as a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Our covenant is our purpose, and it is sacred. We express our faith through living our principles. We call that faith in action. Of course, there are many ways to live out the principles that we hold dear. Activism is just one way, but it is one of my go-tos personally. All UUs, however, give life to these principles through taking care of one another and by taking care of our wider community and, of course, our little blue planet. We bear witness to injustices, freely collaborate with everyone, and we bring others along. We believe in the dignity and worth of all people, and we work for equity and equality. For some of us, our social activism is our faith. Social justice, community organizing, activism, and small acts of kindness is our jam. UU fellowships around the country use different words to describe this. I have heard social justice, activism, faith through action, community organizing, politics, culture work. That was a new one for me. Equity, service. Dorothy, you didn't know that you're going to be featured in this little presentation, but Dorothy mentioned to me one time on the phone recently that Manitowoc really is lucky to have our fellowship. Manitowoc sees our faith in action every day. And Dorothy was saying how lucky Manitowoc is to have us because she understands what UUs do and how important UUs are for the community. Give yourself an applause, everybody, honestly. I was going to sort of import an applause sound, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. Unitarians believe that deeds speak louder than words. We believe religion should make a difference, not just in the world, but to the world. We know that active, tangible expressions of love and justice and peace are what make the difference. Our activism does not have to be big. And of course, we also know being a UU isn't only about activism. We UUs do have a lot to learn, however, about activism. One African-American UU thought leader, Takaya Amin, reminds us that, quote, one way that dominant culture Unitarian Universalism does itself a disservice is in operating under the assumption that activism is meant to change them and not us. She continues, there continues to be resistance to the idea that within our roots and dominant culture are persistent strands of white supremacy, heterosexism, classism, and ableism. She continues on and wraps up. I see among us a shift in recent years from denial to acknowledgement, but that shift came not without significant energy from, and frankly, at great cost to, many of us living in marginalized bodies, end quote. UUs believe in the interconnected web of all things, and we believe in the inherent worth of every person. Caring in small ways, such as being kind, is just as impactful and just as meaningful. So what got me to thinking about all this faith and action business was my experience during this past presidential campaign. During the campaign, I learned how to use various social media. I learned to use the ever redundant Slack software and maintain campaign relationships with people around the country in support of their campaigns. I created digital memes using stories, jokes, events, and candidate bios for posting on social media and giving to other people to post on their social media. I volunteered, like many of you did, at the Dem campaign office. I used Mobilize to text, call, and write people in states all over the country in support of their campaigns, especially Kentucky and Georgia. I also organized the Lakeshore Riding with Biden sign relay portion of the nationwide event. The thing is, because this election was this election, I was a wreck. Experience was hardly the meaning-making expression of faith through social activism of my Unitarian dreams. And it certainly did not feel like soulcraft. I was exhausted and dispirited. So what did I do? What to do? What I'm continuing to do? I asked you all for help. I went to you, my faith community, for help. I also checked in with my own go-to thought leaders. I asked 10 of you to spend some time with me sharing your thoughts and experiences on activism and the importance of activism for you. Each conversation ran a unique course, but basically we explored, what does your activism mean to you? In other words, in what ways does your activism create meaning for you? Do you find it hard to hold on to a sense of spirituality? And is this something you often articulate? On the following slides are quotes from some of you of the wisdom that you shared with me. When I see something wrong, I want to do something about it. We are all on this earth to help each other. We are here to live and learn from each other. This is all your words. Being a UU is being proactive, engaged, and not cutting yourself off into little boxes of humanity. What we do shapes us and who we are becoming. We create a caring community. We pay it forward. Politics and spirituality are not separate from me. UU gives me the opportunity to have it all. I can have pieces of traditional religion from my childhood and still work for systems change. UUs have faith that others will jump in, and activism affirms our values. Truth and beauty are my reason for being. Social justice is my purpose. It's why I am here. Talk about soulcraft. To a person, every one of you said, service is our prayer. Spirituality is part of it. It is the core. Otherwise, why would you bother? Spirituality and sense of purpose can drift away amidst life's chaos. Exactly, which is exactly my experience and why I have chosen to get involved in this little thought exercise and ask you all for help. We need to feed the spirit side to feed us. It is our personal responsibility to nurture our own spirituality. It is our job as UUs. Again, this is the main reason I am a UU. I want to be a force for good. It is my reason for being in the world. That's why I do politics. UU is not just a religion. It is the shape of a life and one that I want others to have. In hearing some of these things, I remembered the second time I met His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. As you remember, the first time I met the Dalai Lama, I think I've told you the story about how I took an elevator ride with His Holiness and we laughed together all the way up to the 10th floor of the press club. 18 months later, I had the opportunity to run into him again, and I mean literally run into him. I was late for a meeting. I was running into the Hay Adams Hotel. Outside were limos, the usual suits. Inside, there were more suits. The whole lobby, which is small, was filled with suits. And I'm all busy in my work head trying to figure out how to navigate around the mall because I really was late for the meeting I was supposed to be in. So I get this arm that reached out to me and pulled me in, and it was His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama says, "You are destined to meet the Dalai Lama." And we stood in the middle of this circle of security suits and talked politics. I was aware at the time, and you cannot meet this person, this God man, without understanding that he is a God for many, many people around the earth. His presence is so inspiring. But he was asking me what my thoughts were on politics. And he was asking me about what my thoughts were on the Jewish diaspora and the Irish diaspora, because he was wrestling in his head how to maintain the Tibetan culture after he was gone. So let's talk about activism as soulcraft. Let's talk about ways that people like the Dalai Lama and other people can maintain their sense of soulcraft, their sense of spirituality in their activism. Parker Palmer is a lifelong Quaker. He works to live according to Quaker principles. He also was once a community organizer, and he offers some strategies for spiritual literacy in organizing. Spiritual literacy is my word. I've kind of inserted it here. And I hope it makes sense to you by the end of this presentation. I think it will. Parker Palmer has this terrific formula for effective change making. And he says, know your gifts, know your strengths, know what you have to offer, and know what you do not. Be authentic. Come from your authentic self. Know your ethics. Have a good conversation with yourself. Get clear. Know what is important to you. Don't jump from pillar to post. You can't do everything. You need honest insight into what moves you and go from there. Do not do what I ought to do because you can't do it all. After you make your choice, stay in your lane. He also continues, don't be wedded to results. He says, when I die, I won't be asking about the bottom line. I'll be asking if I was faithful to my gifts and to the needs of those around me. Thich Nhat Hanh's spiritual literacy is deep, deep listening. He says, listening helps to heal the empty heart. He says, give him or her a chance to suffer less. Besides, what else are you for? Fear and anger are born of the wrong perceptions. You can offer, I know you suffer a lot. I want to understand. In a UU World article from January 2018 titled, Do you have to be an activist to be a Unitarian Universalist? It was an interview of 6 thought leaders. And this is what they said. They did say, yeah, you do, but it doesn't have to be big activism. It can be kindness in daily life. But they also said, don't tell people what to do. Learn what they need and maybe connect that to a larger agenda. They said, tap into connectedness, take risks to get to know others, break down otherness. The guy in the red hat is a challenge for me these days, actually. I need to work harder with this. Listening goes against the cultural grain in Western cultures. Listening means asking questions and stopping to listen to the answers, the total answer. And most importantly, they say, keep our UU 7 principles center. And then just a couple weeks ago, we heard the wonderful Stacey Abrams say, faith is taking care of each other. You must be the most patient person in the conversation. Listen with compassion. Meet them where they are, not where you want them to be, and learn what moves them. Now, Parker Palmer was saying, learn what moves you, and you need to do that. You also, on the other side, need to learn what moves them. Learning about what moves you gives you an authenticity to bring to the table when you learn about what moves them. Have courage to navigate the spaces of people unseen to you. Keep your idealism and demand more. I'm still working on the idealism part. Like I said at the beginning, my idealism has kind of taken a hit. But this has been a really great exercise for me, and I appreciate all your help. But one way or another, faith and activism is about change making. And it is also about meaning making. We try to make things better by being purposeful, by being authentic in our choices, with deep listening, holding on to our 7 principles. Sure sounds like soulcraft to me. Thanks for this opportunity, and let's continue our conversation. Thanks, you all.
Thank you, Jennifer. We have some time for some discussion, questions about this presentation. So if you would, everyone is on mute, so if you'd like to speak, either press the space bar or take yourself off of mute. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Jennifer, I can't tell you how inspiring that is. My challenge, and this is where I'm probably going to ask Linda to help me out, is I've always felt politically in trying to do something that I thought was good or meaningful was limited in that I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a Canadian citizen, as most of you know, and just felt that I was not justified in expressing my opinion to other U.S. citizens that may have a different opinion, or that I had a right to act on that. So your talk has really touched me. And Linda, you've always offered to help me become and study for citizenship. And I think I'm going to take you up on it when you're feeling better.
You don't have to wait.
You.
I'll do it anytime.
Well, I'm trying to get my schedule under control. One of the reasons I was in videos because I'm still doing work and it's been nonstop, and I'm hoping to make some changes with that. But your talk, Jennifer, is telling me another reason why I have to make some changes in my professional life to be able to focus on this and to keep my spiritual integrity and feelings. And the sensitivity has always been there for my patients. And now I need a sensitivity for my spiritual being. And I thank you all, everyone in the congregation for helping me maintain that and coming back to it.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I so admire the work that you do. The thing that came across my mind as you talked about your citizenship was that I don't think Soulcraft has any requirement for specific citizenship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the daily acts of kindness and what is meaningful to you, might be able to expand,
Yeah, I think that's where I've been focused, that my children have always struggled with their religious affiliation or lack of, brought up as Catholic, going to Catholic schools. And my response was always, God is the goodness in you. And that's what you have to promote, and live by that principle. And if you're doing it, then you have your spiritual being within you. It's there.
Yeah. Right on.
And thank you again. That was I loved your experience with the Dalai Lama. I didn't know that.
Kathy.
I just wanted to say, Cheryl, if you would be interested, you might talk with Kerry Trask, because he is a Canadian and Canadian citizen up until he decided to run for assembly in 2010. So he certainly would be someone for whom it didn't make any difference whether he was a Canadian or a U.S. citizen in terms of his activism. Can you be a dual citizen?
You can now. So that was one of the reasons we didn't Well, I'm the last one in my family who has, and we were the reason we came, and I'm the only one that's not currently. It's a long story. When I lost my green card, they gave me another 10-year extension. So that's made it easy for me just to ignore the whole thing. But you can. When we first came, you could not. So that was the reason we held out to at least 5 to 7 years.
I want to thank Jennifer for her personal sharing, because I think it helps so much to know where people really are and what they've been dealing with and how they're thinking. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for making this personal.
It was really helpful to me today too, because this afternoon is a meeting with Love and the school board on discussing equity and racism and and how to deal with that with children. And I was kind of dressed for bear fighting when I thought about going there and what would I say and how would I address it. And this has given me a different perspective to how to listen and to relate to other people's thoughts on this. And I wanted to say this during the Joys and Concerns thing, and then I forgot. But Nancy Lodel has taken on the job of being a representative for Wusan, and I want to thank you for doing that. That's social activism to the great degree.
Can you explain what WUSM is?
Wusan is a social justice Unitarian, a statewide Unitarian social justice organization, and we're a part of that. Kathy Bernhardt had been our rep prior, but now Lancy, with Kathy's taking on the job of being president of the UU board, I think is what happened. You can address that yourself, Kathy, but then Nancy took it over.
Seal, could you just give a little bit more information if anybody's interested in attending that meeting? It's at the
This afternoon. It's at 1:00 at the Presbyterian Church, 1 to 3, and it's a discussion of the critical race theory and how it's not being taught in our schools. And there are people that are making that accusation that it's not true at all in the Manitowoc school system. Or anywhere, probably.
yeah.
I think they're trying to lower the temperature. One of the goals of the meeting is to lower the temperature of the critical race theory without delegitimizing it.
Seal, that's at the Presbyterian Church?
Yes, at 1:00.
It's on
I
8th
think it's
Street.
important for a lot of folks to show up and show that there's interest. It's so hard for me to understand why people can't understand that 400 years of slavery would have consequences.
Because they don't want to.
I guess they're trying to make it some kind of agenda that's not valid. In my opinion, it's not happening.
Kathy Bernhardt.
Just what Seal was saying is why it's so hard to listen to the other side. I totally agree with you, Seal. But and in my head I'm saying we should listen to what they're saying, try to understand what, and not just brush it off. But it tears at your gut when you hear that stuff, and it's so hard to just sit and listen to things that to me seem so wrong and so in violation of just a human spirit, much less the divine spirit. So that's all.
One thing that's disturbing is that the Republican leadership are defining critical race theory as pretty much any discussion of race. That's not critical race theory. So they're using this as a catch-all for any kind of discussion of race or our history in classrooms. And so that's a huge problem.
Nancy, do you have a comment?
Just want to thank Celia for that. And want to say that those are very hard shoes to fill, Kathy Bernhardt's. I'll do my best. But also I wanted to say that there are forms to be filled out for fair maps, and I'm collecting. You don't have to sign it, but you have to give your personal information. But if anyone here today would like to sign the form and hasn't so far, I'll take your name and I will get to you with a form, and then I'll send it in. Woosan is working with the Fair Maps Coalition to end gerrymandering.
Nancy, I have a question for you on that. I have a form filled out with signatures, and I cannot find anywhere on the website where to send it to. Okay, I have a paper copy. This was for people who couldn't do it online because they're not online, basically.
Okay. Yeah,
So
if
it's
you
a paper copy.
do you have a scanner?
Not that works.
Not that I can pick it up from you if you'd like.
That would be fantastic.
Okay,
Thank
sure.
you.
I have a scanner, so
Thank you.
I'll get your address afterward.
Well, could
Okay,
you mail
great.
it? Jeanette, could you mail it to her?
Nancy?
Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, I don't think we have time for that because I think the
Yeah.
end is July 31st.
Ooh.
Yeah,
And God knows when it would get to me.
right.
Thanks to Mr. DeJoy. So I will get your address though. And if anyone
great.
else wants to sign a form, I'm happy to come and get your signature or your information.
Nancy, I'm putting it in the chat.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
We have time for maybe one or two more comments.
I want to thank Jim for producing this. He's always great to work with. He taught me a lot about all the mechanics of Zoom. It was great. Thanks, Jim.
Jennifer, for this, I needed this so much. Thank you.
All right, with that, we're going to go to our closing song. This is Keep On Moving Forward.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Never turning back.